All right, class, so this is part 2 of finding the zeros of polynomials. And for this video, we're going to talk about what happens when you multiply two linear equations together and how do you find the zeros of that kind of equation. So let's remind ourselves first, what is a zero of a polynomial? It's from last video. Zero of a polynomial is an x value, something that x equals, when y is equal to 0. So just like last time, we want y to equal 0, and then we want to figure out when y equals 0, what do the x's equal? And whatever that is, that's my 0. That's a 0 of the polynomial. So key for this video is that when you have anything times a 0, the answer is going to be 0. Put that another way, if you have a multiplication problem and one of the numbers being multiplied is a 0, the answer is going to be 0. It doesn't matter what order you multiply the numbers in, and it doesn't matter what the other number is. If one of the numbers in a multiplication problem is 0, the answer is always 0. Okay, so let's look at a problem here. So we have an equation, and if you notice, this equation has two parentheses being multiplied together, and in each of those parentheses is a linear equation. So we got two linear equations multiplied together. Now, to find the zeros of a polynomial, we want y to equal 0. Now, we have y equals 0, and we have two things multiplied together. And what did we learn up here? One of those things has to be a 0. And if it's a 0, then that will actually make the answer 0. So either x plus 1 has to be 0, or x minus 3 has to be 0. If either one of those is 0, this will be true. So let's figure out, what does x have to be to make x plus 1 equal to 0? Well, this is exactly the sort of equation that I did, that I solved last video, right? If I just subtract 1 from both sides, I have that x equals negative 1. So if x equals negative 1, that'll make this equation true. That'll make this linear equation, x plus 1, that'll make that equal to 0. And if x plus 1 equals 0, then I've got 0 times something else, and that makes y equal 0. So x equals negative 1 makes y equal 0. Negative 1 is a 0 of my polynomial up here, because it makes y equal 0. Well, x plus 1 is not the only thing that we can make equal 0. I'm going to go with my